Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're getting ready to start the show pretty soon. But yeah, to get to Aleppo, yeah, you got to kind of skirt along the top of the coast of Africa, and then you're going to want to be careful not to go near Libya because there's all kinds of mischief and mayhem going there. And
left at Damascus.
No. We're not saying you're a dumbass.
You take a ride at Zeppo.
Okay. Take a ride at what? At Zeppo? Zeppo. Okay. So yeah. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Gary, we're going to have to go now, but we'll put a good word in for you because there's a lot of good things to say about. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. Marc Moorash and I are back. It's Thursday. It's noon 30, and we're back, and we're going to talk about those other two guys. So, well, one of those guys is a gal, but those other two candidates, because apparently a lot of folks, 70% of voters don't like either Trump or Clinton. And probably if they had somebody that they knew something about, they probably could actually make a rational decision to vote for one of the other two candidates. Who are those other two candidates?
You mean a third party or a fourth party?
Yeah.
A fifth, a sixth, a seventh, and eighth party?
Yeah.
You mean out of 320 million people in this country, there are more than just two who are more than two who are qualified to run for president.
That's pretty presumptive on your part to say that the two that are there are qualified.
Well, look.
No. I have to. All due respect, Hillary Clinton has a lot of experience. She's very qualified. The question is about her honesty and whether she's honest.
And look,
but she's very well qualified. The Donald Trump, and that's his family name from the old country that got changed to Trump when the family came to America. Donald Trump is neither decent nor qualified. But that's no reason to automatically vote for Clinton, is it?
Of course it isn't. I mean, look, a few weeks ago, we already all declared for the 2020 presidential campaign. So,
yeah.
If you really can't find somebody for 2016, you got us in 4 years. But for the time being, you have some other choices. You have Jill Stein of the Green Party,
yep.
Who, could have been on the debate stage.
Could have been,
The Democrats are touting the idea of a woman running for president. If it meant so much to them, why not double down and have two of them on stage?
Yeah.
Now that's history.
Imagine two women up there with Donald Trump.
He wouldn't be able to control himself. So you know what? We just solved it. So now I understand why they couldn't have Jill up there.
That might very well be it. Now, and of course, alluding back to the original call-in from Gary Johnson asking directions to Aleppo. Now, having said that, he didn't know where Aleppo was. Actually, what it was is he didn't understand that Aleppo was not an acronym, because we all talk in acronyms. The TPP, the XYZ, the QRZ, the LOL, the WTF, everything's acronyms. So he thought that perhaps it was an acronym for a terrorist group, which if you look hard enough, you're probably going to find a terrorist group somewhere, either elsewhere in the world or in America. I mean, the KKK. Terrorist group,
and look,
acronym.
Yeah, when the Egyptian goddesses are getting, taken over as terrorist groups, you never know what the acronym's going to be. But, he has a right to be up there on that debate stage as well. I mean, look, you look at what's happening around the world. You look at, fighting in Syria. You look at fighting in Yemen. Mm-hmm. And he's very much against this continuing imperialistic nature of the U.S. military and wants to rein the military back in to the U.S. And you know what? That's great, because you'd love to have, like Jill Stein, if you want peace, you're voting for the Green Party.
Yep.
Neither of the two major party candidates have even mentioned the word. It's like they can't. Maybe they can't say the word.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't come out. They can't, which is horrible. But of course, Gary Johnson, on the other hand, wants to do away with most of, social services and things, which is a very, very libertarian thing. So there's, what becomes the important issue?
Yeah.
And so what becomes the important issue? Sexual assault, honesty, and warmongering.
Yeah. Yeah. And prisons that are filled with
Cut off both my hands.
Yeah, there you go. And prisons are filled with predominantly black men that are there for drug offenses, mostly marijuana, possession, not selling, but possession. And here they are in these corporate prisons. And there's another thing that that Green Party candidate Jill Stein and Libertarian Party candidate Gary Johnson are very much in tune with one another on.
Yes.
And very much contrary to what the two principal parties, we'll call them major because they call themselves major, that they're in favor of. Although
there's a Spaceballs joke.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Although kudos to President Obama for taking that step toward cutting out federal prisons being corporate entities.
Well, yes, at least in terms
start.
of it's a start. But if you want to call it for what it is, while we're talking about legalization, if there are private prisons that are beholden to shareholders, they have contracts with states where the states have to supply X number of prisoners.
They're out there looking.
As per contract, which means folks who normally would have gotten away with a fine are getting put in jail. And yes, predominantly minorities, marijuana offenses.
Jose, Laquanda, we're talking to you when we say this, because they're after you.
If you stop allowing the legal system, because I don't dare call it a justice system, stops putting all of those folks in jail, in prison for petty offenses, then the entire private prison system falls. And you have to wonder if the only reason that marijuana hasn't been legalized so far is because they need to keep those people in prison. Because not only is it keeping the prisons full and they get money from that, but we now know that all of the folks in prison are making goods for Victoria's Secret at pennies on the dollar. I mean, talk about minimum wage. You're getting paid 23 cents an hour to make things that you'd have to pay someone, $7.25 or eventually, hopefully, $15. And you think of somebody like the CEO of Victoria's Secret, Les Wexner, he took the road less traveled, and that was to use prison labor, which is essentially modern slavery.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. It's neo-slavery.
And so yes, you have two candidates, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson, who want to legalize marijuana. And you might actually wonder if that reason alone is what kept them out of the debates. I mean, it's artificial, this idea that you have to have 15% in the polls. The polls can be manipulated. And let's not forget that there was another candidate who was for the legalization. Yes, I eat my soup with my hands. Anyhow.
You got a finger bowl. I got the soup. Shells. So yeah, point well made and point well taken. But Joe's listening in from the table over there now, and he's sort of nodding his head. So you have this notion of people working for 23 cents an hour in prisons, taking jobs away from, actually they're taking jobs away from themselves, jobs that would at least be minimum wage jobs. And they're doing it for 23 cents an hour, and that depresses wages everywhere. And Victoria's Secret's we're looking down your blouse.
Oh, hey.
But seriously, we're very angry about corporations that take advantage of prison populations. And you know that certainly the prisoner is getting 23 cents an hour, but there's a little extra ka-ching going to the warden and to the corporation that's running the prison. There's all kinds of bad stuff going on, and it just shouldn't be that way.
Well, let's lay it out. You have two private prison corporations that are traded on the public stock exchange.
Yep.
So you have the potential of a judge who owns these stocks. Those stocks start to go down. That judge has the potential to manipulate those stock prices by sending more people to prison. Send more people to prison, stock price goes up, profit.
Yep.
And not of the biblical sense. And
No,
so
that's for sure.
you have, and you can say, okay, it's not going to happen. No, it would never happen. There was a case a handful of years ago. There were two judges in Pennsylvania who were getting kickbacks from private prison corporations to send folks to their detention centers, to their reform centers. And what made it even worse was it was teenagers who were getting, there was a teenager who said something bad about his teacher on MySpace and got locked away for 90 days by this judge who was getting money from the private prison corporation to send more kids into detention centers.
I mean,
I-
do a little, don't take our word for it. Do a little investigative reporting of your own, and call us on it. If you find that that's not the case, call us on it.
Private prisons started under Bill Clinton. The bill that allowed it to happen was publicly fought for by Hillary Clinton as First Lady.
And let's not forget the Republicans who owned the Congress at the time. Their complicity in that is equal to that of the president at the time. He went along, and shame on him for that. Shame on him for that. But he went along with some things that some corporate Democrats went along with corporate Republicans, and look what we have now. Corporate Democrat running for president and a corporate Republican running for president.
As a good
Wall Streeter and a Wall Street enabler.
As a good
and which is worse? Which is worse? I don't know.
I don't know.
You decide. And if you decide that they're both worse, then we're back into the subject of talking about Jill Stein and Gary Johnson.
Because as a very good friend of mine always says, when we have over 2 million people incarcerated, more than any other country in the world, how do we call ourselves the leader of the free world when you have that many people in prison? You can't. So yes, you have to look at our third party, our fourth party, and what I hope after this election becomes a fifth party, not necessarily in, order of like gold, silver, bronze kind of thing, but Bernie, if you're listening, take the 13 million people who voted for you in the primary and all of the people who couldn't vote for you in the primary because they were locked out being an independent or whatever, and found a party. Please, whatever you want to call it the Birdie Party, call it the Vermont Party, call it we're lifting Vermont up and we're taking it somewhere else and starting the country of Vermont, whatever it is, found a party once whatever happens.
Or there's the nice word coalition. It's a lovely word, because you have, as we've discussed many times on the show, not just tonight, not just today, we talked about the similarities, the issues that the Green Party and the Libertarian Party have in common. A lot of, and in fact, that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
That's the coalition we're looking for in the lame duck congressional session after the elections. Those are the folks that we're looking to stop the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And last night we were talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership and essentially what it does, which is so bad, not just on a worldwide level, not just on a national level, not just on a state level, but on a local level in your hometown, is that if your representatives in your town, your first selectman, your mayor, your city council, pass an ordinance which a corporation, whether it be Coca-Cola or R.J. Reynolds or the water company that controls so much of the water delivery system in the area, Brookfield particularly, there are a lot of small water companies that have been bought up by a corporation whose name escapes me, but you'll find it for me and you'll look it up because that's your job. That company decides that Brookfield has done something which is harmful to its future profitability. Then that company can sue the town of Brookfield, city of Danbury. They can sue any and everybody that they want to, and they don't go into the local court system to file their suit. They go in front of a tribunal, which under the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and it's already in place to some degree under NAFTA and CAFTA, and well, they're all shafters, but awesome. They all shaft everybody. They all shaft Americans, and really people in other countries too, who get caught up in this business. They go in front of a tribunal of their own peers, their peers, not your peers, not my peers, not our city council peers. They go in front of a tribunal of their own peers and state their case, and their peers decide whether they've been harmed financially. If their profitability has been damaged by a local ordinance or a local law, they win, we lose, we have no recourse. Even up to the Supreme Court, we have no recourse.
So what you're saying is laws against tobacco usage, for example. If it's going to cut into their profits, no law could be passed to say ban smoking somewhere. Could cut into profits.
Could.
It could be laws passed to no longer sell billions of dollars of arms to Saudi Arabia. But an arms manufacturer could lose out on profits because of that.
Yeah,
so does that mean
very harmful to them?
Does that mean that we'd be essentially forced to continue to arm the world?
They can do whatever they can convince a tribunal of their peers to agree with them on. And folks, that tribunal is not going to come down. You can wish all you want on a star, but that tribunal is not going to come down on the side of your elected officials or your town's voters that vote in a referendum to accomplish something positive.
But there's got to be a way out, right? Even if it gets voted in, there's a way out.
No.
Rip up the contract?
Can't be overturned.
I mean, I know it's thick, but you could shred it.
Can't be overturned.
Guillotine.
Can't be overturned.
Can't be overturned.
Can't be overturned.
No way out.
Once it's there, it's there. So
1,000 years from now.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Never say never, but I mean, our moment in time, our moment to stop this Trans-Pacific Partnership from getting to that point is to stop it now, to contact your representative. You can contact your senator, you can contact your representative, and let them know. Go read it first. Read a little bit about it. Read some of the highlights of it, because you can bet that even though your representative is probably going to say to you, oh, I haven't read it yet. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind about it yet. They've read it. They've made up their mind one way or the other. And you need to change their mind. You need to let them know that you're watching them and that the future of your family, your kids, your grandkids depends very much on their vote. It's not just short-term profit, it's long-term. America having, or any country, having sovereignty over its own, over itself.
Over itself and not being under the thumb of corporations, which one could argue, as we were talking earlier, goes back to the Great War. Goes back to when there was a war going on and our country wasn't going to get involved. U.S. wasn't going to get involved.
Which war was this?
The Great War, World War I.
World War I, yeah.
Called the Great War, and then later on, when there was a second Great War, they had to refer to the Great War as World War I. It got retconned, as it were.
World War I was referred to as the war to end all wars.
Wasn't supposed to be a next. Well, we didn't have much of a standing army in the U.S. And the corporations, things like J.P. Morgan and all of that, had a great idea. they'd start the preparedness movement. And they would say, they would go out to the citizens of this country and say, we need money from you to help have a standing army in case we have to go to war. The corporations convinced the people to raise money that got spent on the things, the munitions, the weapons that those same corporations were selling to the government to then finally get involved in World War I.
Sounds a bit like selling, was it $3 billion of arms to Saudi Arabia? $3 billion of arms to Israel? Now, who pushes our Congress folks, our Congress critters, if you will, to vote for something like that?
Not me.
Who's gonna benefit from that?
You? No. You?
No.
Not you? No. No. You
benefit from that?
Anybody here benefiting from billions of dollars of arms sales? Yeah.
Who's benefiting from that?
About 10 people.
People that own
Billions and billions of lingerie stores. No, I don't know that he actually has anything to do with.
Yeah.
But it's true. It goes so far up the line to corporations. There are so many companies that are funding and enabling war. All of the technology that goes into, they're all making the profit. And
so they benefit from us authorizing the spending of money through our representatives to fund ongoing wars that may or may not involve our troops.
Right.
You know, we've seen cases where they have. We've seen cases where they haven't. We've seen cases where our folks are sitting at a console pushing a button and not even aware of which hospital is being struck by a drone.
But you know what will eventually happen? Eventually, when there's enough of an uproar of people saying, stop bombing. Apparently, I was told yesterday that the United States has bombed 12 countries this year. When it finally gets to the point where there's enough of an uproar about this, they'll turn around and say, well, we've got $20 billion we just sold in arms to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Why don't we fix those roads? We'll give some of it to your schools. Does that make it okay? Or will we be able to stand the line and continue to call for peace when they finally go, we'll give you some of it, we'll cut you in on it? Because right now, those billions and billions of dollars, they're not helping anybody.
And that's where people that make the conscious decision to not be afraid that if they don't vote for Hillary Clinton, that maniac Donald Trump will become president, or don't make the conscious decision that if they don't vote for Donald Trump, then Clinton will take away all their guns or something like that, or
because
abort every baby that comes into the world, or
but it's true. Hillary has a giant magnet up in space that's floating over the Earth, and it's keyed just to gunmetal.
No.
It's going to take. She's going to turn it on, and all the guns are going to go boom.
That's the other show on Comcast. That's Kevin Gallagher's show. We don't do that stuff. Sorry. So there you have the opportunity to vote for, to take a chance, vote for the candidate that you really honestly believe is the best candidate. And if you think that's Donald Trump, vote for him. If you think that's Hillary Clinton, vote for her. If you don't like either one of them, then look for the candidate that best approaches what you believe in. If you lean a little bit more Republican, a little bit more to that side, then you got a very honest guy, Gary Johnson, running for president that deserves your vote. If you lean a little bit more towards the Democratic side, but you're not so keen on Hillary Clinton, vote for Jill Stein, because this is the way that we get the ball rolling to establish either new parties or a new party that's a coalition of all the fine things that both those candidates and both those parties believe in. You're going to have to set aside a little bit of stuff that you disagree with. I mean, I don't think we should tear down government completely and not fund anything and just fund the protection of the country, because that's the purest side of the libertarians. you got to put a little bit of that aside and say, well, you know, that's not going to happen. So don't get angry at them, where you can be on their side for a lot of the good stuff that they believe in.
Yeah.
Likewise, you know, you don't like the idea of people going out to South Dakota and chaining themselves to tractors. Maybe that's not exactly what you think is the right way to go about solving things, but you believe that war is not the answer, that money should be spent at home to rebuild the infrastructure that is the United States of America, to take care of all of us, then maybe you want to consider voting for Jill Stein and take a chance.
And speaking of that kind of freedom, first of all, back to pipelines in the Dakotas, shout out to the courts in the Dakotas who let Amy Goodman off of the ridiculously trumped up riot charge. Journalists reporting about the Dakota pipeline arrested for trespassing. They tried to bump it up to a riot charge, and the judge out there said, no, this is absurd. They need to now release all of the journalists out there who have been arrested. There was a documentary filmmaker who was arrested covering the pipeline. They need to let them go as well. But yes, Jill Stein, if you want peace, she's your candidate.
Let the press be the press, and even if it's a side of the press that you don't agree with, even if it's Breitbart, who's running Donald Trump's campaign, who's, from most people's perspective, a pretty extremist group. They're the press, and they deserve the right to have their say, to put their word out there. We as citizens have a responsibility to look and question the press, and we need to question and question and question and stay up on issues, and then make good, conscious, good, honest decisions based on what's in our heart, and go with what we believe, and not be afraid of what might happen if we vote for Ralph Nader, who's not in the election, but he gets a lot of blame. Thank you for watching Progressive Soup. David Stevenson, Marc Moorash. Thank you. See you next Wednesday.